Hey folks, how's it going? It's been a while since we've been together for the Front Runner Football podcast, and of course, that's just due to the fact that there's been so much going on with the resumption of South African football, and results are in terms of some of the games at the weekend, but it's been really a glut of football if you love it in all kinds of flavors because you've had the Europa, you've had the Champions League, and of course now the PSL with the Nedbank Cup on the go and the Glad Africa Championship. So that is a full plate. Speaking of full plates, these two gentlemen who joined me have had their plates very full with the resumption of the league. I have Mazola Molefe and Jonty Mark joining me via Zoom to once again reflect on what's been happening. Gentlemen, welcome to the Front Runner Football Podcast.
Thank you.
Good to be here. Kamza.
Good. Let's start with the big game of the weekend, as we've seen Mamelodi Sundowns not being able to make the most of putting and keeping the pressure on Kaizer Chiefs. Kaizer Chiefs then giving their fans a bit of a scare, but a credit to their, determination, I guess, in turning things around against Polokwane City. Does this, in a sense, Mazola, just show us that they're looking to make sure they add that trophy to their trophy cabinets and are just hungrier than the teams that have played before them?
Yeah, I think it carries the momentum from just before lockdown. I've always said that Kaizer Chiefs this season have sort of mirrored their coach. He's feisty. In him, he's known to have that never say die attitude. And I think in the manner in which that they played, they've been more aggressive than they've been the last couple of years that they've gone without trophies, and it's not the first time that Chiefs have, gone behind and come back to win the game, or even win a game in the dying minutes just from, sheer determination and sort of their character as a team. Of course, that had to do with the changes that the coach made at halftime. I mean, he wasted no time. Whereas Polokwane City, perhaps, you could say when they went 2-0 up, they obviously they let the lead slip. Maybe they were not as compact as they should have been, and they were, because in those opening minutes they were carving Kaizer Chiefs open. I mean, they should have had at least 2 goals by halftime. But when Ernst made the changes, Rama coming on for Reef Frosler, who, obviously had been suspended, so he had missed the first game. This was his first game since lockdown.
Yeah.
And Bernard Parker also shifting positions, playing as a left wing back, if you like. And then also Katsande, who, some people might have felt bizarrely started on the bench when, he's your captain and maybe, needs to kind of try play every game. But the coach has explained that, I'm going to have to rotate. I don't have a choice. Even next game against Celtic, you can expect 5 changes or four more changes, So you're never going to know which team's going to play as far as Ernst is concerned, because he's adamant that players are not ready to being loaded with these games coming in thick and fast. So, yeah, Kaizer Chiefs, I think also they are benefiting from the sense that Sundowns have not capitalized as well. Sundowns, have had that game against Pirates, which was a draw. Then they've had another draw against a very good Highlands Park side, which if Sundowns were not careful, I think they could have easily lost that game.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, in a sense, Jonty, you look at that Chiefs performance and it was, personified by that man in terms of Samir Nukovic, and to the credit of the coach, being able to kind of dip onto your bench and bring in reinforcements that also have the tenacity and the grit to see the game as not being over and able to turn it around.
I think that, the substitution certainly had an effect in the sense that Katsande came on and got the goal. As Ms. Mazola mentioned, a bit bizarre maybe that you rest your captain, but Midendorp does think he has to rest players, and that's most coaches' attitude in this sort of squashed season, if you like, where players aren't ready, they haven't had enough preparation, and so Akuma started the game and he scored a goal, and it was a mix. And obviously, you mentioned Nurkovic. I mean, Nurkovic, he didn't get a hat trick, but he got a close to a hat trick in terms of he scored the winner, and he took those two flick-ons, basically put the ball on a plate for Katsande and Akuma to finish off. And he's been so key and integral to Chiefs all season, Nurkovic, and one of the real finds of the season, if you like, coming in. And he's got every chance, I think, now of being top goal scorer with Gabardino going through such a lean streak, and Shalolile's right in there as well. But Nurkovic has to be a contender. And it's not just that, though. It's what he contributes all round in terms of assists, in terms of, really fighting for the team, keeping going. In the first half, even when they were under the cosh, he was the one who had the chance and hit the target. Good save from Chibwe. I do think, as Mazola, I think, mentioned, some of Polokwane City's defending there was something they'll need to look at. I mean, it's excusable maybe. The near post flick on is a very common corner kick, and it's excusable maybe to let one in. But then when Chiefs go and do it from the other side, and you just sort of exactly the same thing happens, you have to start taking a look at yourself. And maybe Chibwe as well could have done a bit more with Nurkovic's long range shot. I think it wasn't right in the corner, and it wasn't the most powerful shot I've ever seen. Yeah. So I think maybe he can. The South African or Zambian goalkeeper can look at his positioning or his agility there, not quite getting to the ball. So I think that all around the Chiefs did well, although there are still serious. I don't know. It wasn't really a great performance, but as Mazola said, all season from the first game when they played Highlands Park and came back to win 3-2 with a last gasp goal, they've shown that spirit to get them through and get them the 3 points when they really need it. And that's why they are 6 points clear at the top and at the moment in a good position, with Sundown sort of not really looking in peak form as well at the moment.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, Mazola, it's no secret. Chiefs in set place, they're so good at them. Surely, as a team planning for them, that's when you have to be at your most alert and your most available to try and avoid going a goal down from what they use as such a good weapon against teams.
Yeah, I mean, look, one of the guys who was sort of instrumental in that, George Maluleka, is no longer with the team, as we know. He's moved on to Mamelodi Sundowns, especially at a time when you would think they would have needed him the most. But Coach Ernst has explained the reasons behind that. And look, Manyama is still there. He's still offering that... the crosses that we know him for. He's still adding contribution. I mean, we saw him do it against Bidvest Wits in the game that I think it was Nukovic who got the only goal for Chiefs. Unfortunate, I suppose, for them to end up drawing that match. And I think even on Saturday, Manyama was also instrumental in playing his role by, whipping in those those balls into the box to try find either a Katsande or a Nukovic or whoever can get at the end of it. Look, at the end of the day, I suppose Chiefs also could have done more. They had a penalty in the dying minutes of the game, and a man who usually has 100% record in converting those missed, for the first time this season, I think, in Cardoso. But yeah, I think they're still going to punish teams from set pieces because they still have a Matoho, they still have, Cardoso, they have Katsande, they have the two front men in Nukovic and Castro. So regardless of whether Mido is there, they'll still punish you, and yeah, the only thing now is that I suppose, you kind of don't know really what's coming your way, especially because the games are coming in so thick and fast, and the coach is changing the team.
Right.
So the ones that he would, usually rely on, some of them might not be on the pitch at the time. Like as we've seen over the weekend with Katsande sitting on the bench. But having said that, they still have a good team that could hopefully see them throughout the season. I mean, tonight's game is also crucial for them. I mean, I know it's Sundowns playing, who are second placed, but if Sundowns again fail to win, then Kaizer Chiefs really can add a cushion to their lead on Wednesday and make it 9 points. And once it's 9 points with 5 games to go, and yes, I still know that things could still happen. The two of them could still have to meet each other. But yeah, you once it's 9 points, you'd get the feeling that Sundowns maybe it could be a stretch too far, especially because they are not on form at the moment. It's just like, as Coach Peter has said, it's just not clicking.
No, for sure. And I guess, maybe with Chiefs, yes, they'll be happy they got the 3 points, Jonty, and it kind of allays the questioning of where's Kune, because he didn't even make the match day squad. And this brings into focus his future, because you have the sense that it'll carry on the way it's carrying on right now if Ernst sticks around. But if he doesn't, then whoever comes in will have a decision to make. So there's a lot kind of riding on the fact that Kune at the moment is being excluded from the playing squad. What do you make of that?
Well, I mean, it's been a case of where there's Kuhn all season, really, and he's battled with injuries, and he wasn't as if Ekpe was the number one choice before the break. So
Sure.
Why would it change now? You can ask. I think Ekpe's done really well. I can't really fault him. He had his struggles with the Chiefs fans and with he gave some slightly wobbly performances in the beginnings, but he really picked up, and he's been excellent, I think, this season. So in Nigerian international, lots of pedigree, and he's doing well. So I don't really see. There's no reason for Middendorf to pick Kune at the moment. I mean,
no, for sure. But I mean, imagine the scenario that touch wood, Ekpe gets injured during the game. As it stands, Ernst Middendorf is saying, I'd rather have Bruce come off the bench than have the former number one. So yes, of course, you can't unseat him just willy-nilly. But to think that if should anything happen in that game, he's still looking rather at Bruce than at Itumeleng Kune.
No, sure he is, and then I would think that it's got. I don't know. You're speculating here, but Kune, he battled with his fitness, and the Chiefs medical team will know better than us what Kune's state of fitness is, how ready he is to be thrown into the fray with a few games to go. Obviously, he's had as little preparation time as everyone else has had in terms of getting match fit, although goalkeepers to some extent don't need the same level of match fitness that outfield players do. But I think I guess he's not ready, or Middendorf would put him in the squad. Certainly someone of his experience you'd think would get a place on the bench. Although Vuma's obviously been a good young keeper at Chiefs and has been part of an African Nations Cup squad, so he's not got no experience. He's not got if this is tournament like football, if you like, because it is in a sense. He's had that experience of being in Egypt. But yeah, at the moment it doesn't look like Ekpe is going to get injured. Goalkeepers tend to get injured also less than other players. But obviously, if something did happen, then questions might be asked. But Middendorf's put his head on the block over Kune quite a lot this season, and so far Chiefs are top of the league, and so he's not. It's very difficult. You can't criticise him for dropping him. It's not as if you can say, oh well, Ekpe's cost us points. He hasn't cost Chiefs points. And so far, I think Middendorf is the man in power. And if there's a power struggle with Kune, or if he's dropping Kune for any other reason than he's not fit, then Middendorf's the man holding all the cards at the moment.
Mazet, do you envision a future where they're happy together, and Middendorf and Itumeleng Kune? Or do you think their happiness relies on the other not being happy, unfortunately?
Yeah, look, obviously the club gave Ekpe a contract extension, so that tells you where sort of their mindset is as well in terms of their belief in the goalkeeper. As Jonty has correctly put it, Ernst has put his head on the block about Kune and, his decisions, therefore, to keep playing Ekpe. But at the same time, he has admitted that it's a difficult decision because, they are both national team goalkeepers. Okay, the other one Kune hasn't been in the national team for some time, and obviously also missed the AFCON as well. Whereas Ekpe was, there. He was at the World Cup in 2018.
Right.
He was at the Nations Cup last year, all the way up to the semi-finals for Nigeria, and had a very good tournament. I'll be the first to admit that when obviously Akpe was signed, it was baffling in the sense that his numbers were quite bad. And and he didn't help it either by not immediately adjusting to life at Chiefs. But I think since the season, picked up a few Man of the Match awards, and Ernst has said it's only fair that he continues to play because he's hardly put a foot wrong. But the one thing I will question is to completely leave Kune out of the 18-man squad. That raises eyebrows.
Right.
I can understand if he's on the bench, like he had been towards just before lockdown. He had been. Right. Akpe remained the number one goalkeeper, but Itu was on the bench. And even played a cup game against Highlands Park. But to be completely left out, I must admit that raises eyebrows in the sense that you have essentially a player that had been before. Obviously, I think it's Ronwen Williams now who sort of owns that number one jersey for the national team. But before that, you had Kune, being top of his game for the last little while, for the last maybe 9-10 years as the country's number one. Even for Kaizer Chiefs, as Kaizer Chiefs number one for quite some time. So for him to be completely left out of the team, and the coach has said that he's not injured. So I don't know what you want to read into that, but I suppose it as I said, you ask questions, and I think it was only fair that the first game back, journalists were also asking, where's Kune? I know that seems to be a question that often irritates Ernst. Because he even says that he understands that some players are more popular than others, but it is what it is. He's been the country's number one for some time, and especially when you are conceding as much as they have. I know Akpe has had some sterling performances and that, but there's an argument that maybe with a fit Kune, and also I say that with a heavy heart, because I know that Kune, it doesn't look like he's going to be able to he hasn't been able to finish a season for some time now. As good as he is, he's not proven to be that reliable in the sense that he's had injury worries. Obviously he's getting older. He's had shoulder operations and whatever. So it's a tough one, but fair enough. Ernst has to stick with the guy that's been there even prior to lockdown. But to leave Kune out completely, raises eyebrows for me.
No, for sure. I tend to agree with you. Okay, let's move on to the next encounter that we saw, and that was Cape Town City just kind of edging themselves closer and closer to that top 8 finish. Jonty, Rickerink will be relieved that obviously, having not had a preseason, now he's had somewhat of a break to kind of instill his philosophy. And upon doing that, against a newly installed coach in Lhlonolo Siema, who couldn't get his side up and running immediately. But 3 points for the Western Cape team, while still, Siema is going to have to try and figure it out as to how he gets his side to click.
Yeah, I watched most of that game, and I didn't think it was the best game, to be honest. Wasn't enthralling entertainment, but I thought Fakhri Lakay was good, looked useful down the right. He gave them some serious problems, and obviously his cross was the one that Erasmus headed past the keeper for the only goal of the game. But they did hold on fairly comfortably, Cape Town City. They weren't really ever threatened seriously by Chipper, who there's always all sorts of jokes going around that Siema might be the first coach ever fired in a PSL bubble. But if you write your own history if you're Chipper, and they've certainly they've earned that tag, if you like, of trigger happy, and people are going to start saying that because I think coaches have been fired by Chipper after losing one match, if I'm not mistaken, or at least only a couple.
You reckon, yeah.
So it's quite possible, but I mean, I don't know. I think I'd like to see them give Siema a chance, but it's tough down there at the bottom of the table. Good win for Cape Town City. Yeah, it's given Rickerink a chance to sort of come in, and after Benny was fired, obviously didn't have a proper pre-season, so he's had a kind of mini pre-season, if you like, and been able to work with the players, and they certainly look structured, and they look organised. They were always sort of one of those too good to go down teams. They had too many good players. you never really tagged them as a side that was, but they were getting sort of dragged down there into a bit of a battle. But now it looks like they're going to be pretty much safe. They could realistically make the top 8. And I think, given the circumstances of their season, if they can finish in the top 8, that would make a fairly successful season for them. Because obviously with Benny being fired and a new coach coming in, yeah, I know it'd be nice, because I think Fakhri Lakai at one point was in the Bafana squad. And was like pushing to be one of the best young players in the country. Then he kind of faded away a bit, and if he can get going again, he's certainly got the speed and the talent to cause defences some problems. And obviously Erasmus he said quite a nice quote afterwards, that it's his dad he told his dad he'd score. His dad told him to score, and he did, and they referenced that in a tweet afterwards, which was also quite a nice touch. And I think he's obviously a top striker in the PSL and good. I think he's in double figures now, so he's done well this season. One of the bright spots of a fairly middling season for City, but they certainly can push now, obviously, for a top 8 spot, and hopefully for them have a good finish to the campaign.
Mazola, we speak about loading. It's usually more in a physical sense, but could we be witnessing that it's taking some time for loading to happen at Chipa? I mean, in terms of principles, in terms of things that you get right, passing game was okay, but 0 shots on target in that game. Seems to me that, the players are kind of just taking things in and haven't really fully acclimatized to the new coach to be so ineffective in front of goal.
Yeah, look, the coach seemed quite baffled himself at the end of the match. In his post-match interview, he did raise some concerns that the guys were just not at the races on the day.
Yeah.
Obviously, he hopes it would improve because they are also still not safe entirely from that relegation scrap. And I think he wanted to say he kind of understands the little them being a bit lackluster, but as you mentioned it, to not even have a shot at goal, it questions whether they had the determination or the sort of the will to fight, because essentially jobs are on the line also, for Siema mostly, as given how the chairman can be so trigger happy, but also once you go down to the lower division, it's tough to come back up. You also lose so much money. So players are going to have to realize that and kind of snap out of it, because they really did not give a good account of themselves. So it's going to be interesting what happens next. The fixtures are obviously not easy by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
So they'll have to wake up and smell the coffee.
For sure. Well, I mean, it is tough for them because the next one is against Highlands Park, who we've already spoken about, and how, they were really good against Mamelodi Sundowns. For Cape Town City, as a Monday night fixture for them against Mamelodi Sundowns, they'll be confident. Those big occasions that South African players always rise to the occasion when it seems to be against a big team. So that should make for a cracking encounter. Let's keep it moving in terms of other games that were on the go. Pirates and Wits playing out to a goalless draw. And I kind of feel that that's going to be the fashion when these, big sides meet against each other. It's always such a game of fine margins. Pep Guardiola will always say that, you have to play to the maximum, and it's always the little things that make a difference. A 0-0 draw, and amongst the little things, I guess, Jonty was a man of the match performance out of Goss, who, if I look at that game, was definitely one of the reasons that, Wits came away with a point. I mean, he made a critical save, but then you can look at on the other side, Gabadinho Mango has chances that maybe he's a bit too relaxed about, but for sure, Bitbear's Wits, for all that can be said about their motivation or lack thereof, they showed up that day.
Yeah, I think they have all season, to be fair. I mean, they gave Sundowns a great game, and they banked up semi, perhaps unlucky, been unlucky against Chiefs to only draw with them. Especially towards the end when they really pushed. And against Pirates, yeah, I mean, Domingo, free header, should really have buried that. And then even though you could say he was a bit unlucky in the second half when he hit the inside of the post. He should also have been finishing that off. So Wits could have been 2-0 up by the time Gabardino had that great chance. And that was, Goss was great. I thought Goss, I thought most of his saves were quite routine, with the long range shots, and he tipped them away fairly well. But the one from Mango was absolutely world class. I mean, I do think that Gabardino in his scoring streak, you could say would have perhaps been a bit more clinical with it and finished it, given Goss absolutely no chance. But still, the reaction to save that was amazing. It just shows what a top class keeper, shows why Sundowns have jumped at the chance to sign him. And yeah, that was, and they fought bits, and they've been fighting all season. So credit to them. I do think with Gabardino, I know that Pirates now haven't scored, I think, in 4 matches, 2 before the break and 2 since. And he's been key to them this season. And even at Wits, when he played for Wits, Gabardino was quite a streaky striker, if you like. He would go on runs of goals and then disappear, and then go on runs of goals and then disappear. This one at Pirates, you thought maybe he was going to find a super consistent season because he went on a longer run than he ever went on, I think, at Wits. But he's gone back to sort of being a little bit inconsistent and not finishing off the chances he gets. And then Zimbauer has sort of hinted he might drop him for the game against Barocco. Rest him for the game against Barocco tomorrow. But I'm not sure. And in Pirates, obviously, it's not just Gabardino. They're struggling to hit the back of the net. And they're going to have to sort that out, not just this season, but heading into next season if they're going to, push the likes of Sundowns and Chiefs and well, I was about to say Wits. They're not going to be
too soon. It's too soon.
Too soon. The likes of Sundowns and Chiefs for the title. I think Pirates are going to have to sort themselves out in that area. They've had some good spells, but they're struggling at the moment there. But Gabardino is key to them, or has been key to them under Zimbauer, to their improvement. And unfortunately, now that he's stopped scoring, it doesn't seem to be goals coming from anywhere else.
Yeah, and in terms of missing personnel, I don't think we had the opportunity to speak after the story broke, Mazola. But of course, the big exclusion from the Pirates camp would be, Thembinkosi Lodge. What's there to be made of his exclusion? Obviously, we understand why it was done, but do you think it hurts the team? What does it mean for his future with the team?
Yeah, I mean, it depends how you look at it. Some might say, obviously hurts the team, reigning footballer of the year. Some might say, look, Lodge hasn't turned up the season anyway.
Right. Yeah.
Lodge has, his mind has been elsewhere from the beginning of the season. Obviously there were offers that had come in. According to the player himself, there were offers that come in, and they were turned down by the club. They were. He said the club felt they were not financially viable. So he's been, in a sense, I think the player maybe felt a bit stuck at Orlando Pirates and maybe got a little bit sulky, and didn't quite perform to the best of his abilities. The Lodge that we saw the previous season, helping Orlando Pirates kind of go, sort of toe-to-toe with Sundowns in a 2-horse race for the championship, and at the same time ultimately becoming the footballer of the year. We've not seen that Thembinkosi Lodge this year for that, that's a fact. So but having said that, he is Lodge. He's the same player that obviously, on form, he can come in and obviously do a job, and especially now at a time where that coaches are having to rotate the team quite a lot. You would have needed a lot. You would have needed a Shonga. For instance, if Zimbauer is talking about giving Mango a rest, you would have, perhaps been thinking, okay, there are other options, Mabasa, Lepasa, but you think Shonga as well, who was among the top goal scorers last season for Pirates, not only with goals, but with assists as well, Yeah. But I think them two players, their heads have sort of been elsewhere this season. Shonga also has got interest in Portugal. Talk of a 15 million rand offer on the table, but whether the club's going to accept it or not, that's another case. Let's see what happens with their disciplinary processes. But you would imagine at the moment they're obviously not training with the team. So even if the disciplinary process allows them to go back into the bubble, they will have already missed about 3 games, and then they just come in for the other, remaining few games. Are they really gonna offer you that much when already there are all these dynamics? Their heads have been elsewhere from the start of the season. Now they've gone and breached lockdown protocol. Now they are coming in a bit late into the bio bubble. So there's all those factors to consider. I just think it's a pity that such good players, have been disturbed by matters outside of, their job specs, if you like, for the season.
Yeah.
Although I think they, no player would want, an opportunity to go play abroad be turned down when when they definitely feel that they have the ability to go overseas and kind of do what their counterparts. I mean, Lodge, knows a lot of his Zambian teammates have had opportunities abroad.
Yeah.
Lodge, his Bafana teammates, he had offers from France and Belgium. We've seen what South Africans have done in France and in Belgium. So maybe he fancied his chances too. So that's he's definitely not the Lodge that we saw last season.
Yeah, no, that's a pity. I mean, to miss out on players like Loch and Shonga at such a critical stage of the season. As you say, so formative and important in keeping things interesting in the last campaign. Let's move on to one of the biggest score lines from the weekend, if not the biggest, actually, in terms of a gluttony of goals, Jonty. Black Leopards and Maritzburg. Maritzburg coming into this one, you would have thought neutral ground. Their form, how they've been playing under coach Eric Tinkler, that might, make things easy, but far from it. Black Leopards, I guess we speak about waking up and smelling the coffee. They have for sure, and made sure that they, give themselves a fair chance. And everybody was wondering after Alan Clark if they'd be able to carry on, but it seems like nothing's changed in terms of the hunger to get results, and also save themselves from a precarious situation at the bottom of the table.
Yeah, it's a big win for Leopards. I think form kind of goes out the window when you have this 5-month break or whatever it is. Maritzburg were in good form before the break, but there's been such a long time, and all the problems with preparation and things like that. So Leopards obviously were hungry. I think in this game they wanted to. They badly need the points. And it's given them a real chance of survival going forward. I think Tinkler was quite critical of his team afterwards. He wasn't happy with the way they played. They've got obviously have a very short space of time to sort it out. But it's either a bonus or a disadvantage. It's a bonus in the sense that you can't dwell too long on any defeat in this lockdown period. But it's obviously a disadvantage in the sense you've got a short amount of time to fix what you need to fix going forward. I think Keegan Buchanan got a very nice goal, which is good for him, but obviously not the right result for Maritzburg. But for Leopards again, they've got every chance now of pushing. It's going to be a right scrap, I think, bottom there until the end of the season, and it could well go right down to the last game to see who ends up automatically down and who ends up in the playoff spot. Obviously, the NFD is also quite interesting in the sense you've got a bit of a scrap at the top there now that Chakuma beat Ajax on the weekend.
Right.
Swallows also won, so there's a bit of a tightening of the gap there at the top of the Glad Africa Championship. So those playoffs set to happen at the end of September could be very interesting. But Leopards will obviously hope not to be even in those. Hope to manage to get that crucial 14th place, which keeps you out of trouble completely. But there's a long way to go, and it's going to take more than this one win. But it's a really, really good start for them, certainly.
No, it is. It's a very good win, Mazola, because I guess it keeps them in touching distance with the likes of Chipa, who are in 12th on 26 points. Baroka just below them with Amazulu both on 24. It just goes to show that, one of 5 teams could be one of 4 other teams, let me say. Black Leopards could find a way of clawing them and crab bucketing them into the relegation mix.
Yeah, it's tough down there as we would have expected. But I would have not called
Result.
that result
Yeah.
on Sunday. Especially given how informed Maritzburg were prior to lockdown. Them too, they also struggled in the first couple of minutes. They just went at the races as well.
Yeah.
And Leopards, at least up front, looked a bit sharp. Obviously at the back, question marks there, and with games coming in so quickly, eventually they will get punished. But if what you need is a Moape Musonda who can make things happen for you up front, and he did that yesterday. Pouncing on that Akpe Ofori mistake, and also setting up the second goal as well. So if Moape can be on form and help the team, then they've got a fighting chance, because you need your last season's top goal scorer and obviously captain on the day to perform. So let's see. I mean, I think Thabo Matlaba was obviously missing from that game. So if he becomes available, then he probably also boosts the team as well.
Yeah.
I'm not too sure what's the case with goalkeeper Mendes, because King Glovu not convincing. But at least they've got. Remember, before lockdown, they had all three of their goalkeepers injured, and they were essentially using a fourth choice goalkeeper as their number one for the last remaining games just before the break. So with 5 months layoff, you'd think they're at least a bit more prepared, and as far as goalkeepers are concerned. But I'm not too sure what's the status of goalkeeper Mendes there. But yeah, it's gonna be tough. I mean, when you're at the bottom, it's even tougher to get the wins coming. So that was a 6-pointer against Maritzburg United.
Okay, no, cool. Well, before we wrap up with Mamelodi Sundowns, just very quickly, Jonty, obviously it's sad to hear the news that Richard Ofori lost a family member, his mom. And I guess for the coach, it's a tricky one, because you would say to the player, hey, man, take as much time as you need. Then the player's insistence, he might say, listen, no, I want to be involved. I guess if Maritzburg had won, no one would look at it, but was he in the right state of mind to participate in an important game, considering his personal situation?
Look, I think in those instances, you really have to. I can't really hold too much against coaches if they keep the player, especially if he's a regular starter. He's the number one. He's one of the best goalkeepers in the country. If he says he's ready, as a senior player, I would trust his state of mind as a coach and say, okay, he says he's ready. And sometimes it can motivate a player. Sometimes they can really put in a stellar performance. And we'll never know. The truth is whether it affected his performance or not. I mean, he might come out in the future, I guess, and say, he was distracted, or he was a bit emotional, and maybe in hindsight, he wouldn't have played. But again, I don't think we should, or he shouldn't have played, but I don't think we should hold it against him either. Obviously, it's difficult. You act as you act in the moment, and he was obviously asked, are you ready? And he was like, yeah, I'm ready to play. I want to play. And I think that was the right decision. I don't think, it's certainly not why they lost the game, or why they didn't play particularly well on the day. And I think at the end of the day, you have to trust as a coach your senior players. If you ask them and they say they're ready, then they're ready. And I don't think there's any malice in a player when he says he's ready as well. He goes out and gives his best, and maybe it wasn't good enough on the day, but I don't think there's much that can be done about that. Ofori said he was ready, so he played the game. It is what it is after that, and condolences to him over his mother, obviously. It's obviously a very difficult loss for him, and hopefully he can carry on performing as well as he has done previously for Maritzburg for the rest of the season.
No, for sure. I agree with you there. And then lastly, Mazola, it's a case of Mamelodi Sundowns now, just trying to keep the pressure up against Cape Town City. They'll have to do it without Nascimento. I think there's about 4 bodies not available to coach Pitso. But, we speak about Sundowns and their depth, but surely this is make or break. Just from a psychological perspective, to see, the team at the top come back, win, you not being able to pick up maximum points so far against the Cape Town City side, who in their last game have There's a lot of permutations here, but at the end of the day, Sundowns need 3 points if this title challenge is going to go down to the wire. Yes, mathematically they'll still be in it, but I just think about just thinking as a player that, whoa, we've missed out on opportunity after opportunity to close that gap.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the last 2 games and you look at Kaizer Chiefs' 2 games, Chiefs look the better side. Chiefs have that fighting edge. They are scoring goals. Sundowns, apart from, it almost feels like they scored all their goals against Wits in that Nedbank Cup semi. And after that they've not been able to kick on. Also a lot of mistakes at the back. Madisha, in that game against Wits, and again against Highlands Park, his errors were highlighted. So let's see. Coach Peter, you changed it up a little bit to tonight, although maybe forced in some instances. But yeah, if they don't win this game, I think perhaps Chiefs have an edge, and they could maybe, I don't want to put my head on the block, but maybe kiss the title goodbye.
Yeah, I know. It's going to be a tricky encounter for them. I mean, we've seen obviously Peter Shalulile prove he's a top striker against Mamelodi Sundowns, Jonty, and I'm sure now, if you're Kermit Erasmus, you're looking at this game thinking to yourself, this is another opportunity for me to carry on closing that gap on Mango. Well, not on Mango, but just climbing the charts, I guess, essentially as a goal scorer and against a top side.
Yeah, I mean, you never know. A surge of goals, such as the league, that players do go through droughts, and a surge of goals could get you right up there. There's only a few in it.
Yeah.
Erasmus, maybe not against Sundowns, but he's perfectly capable of scoring more than one in a game. You wouldn't perhaps predict him to do it against Sundowns because Sundowns are such a quality team, but he's certainly well capable of getting himself up there. I think there's a good tussle. Milkovic also, as we mentioned, Shallow Lile's right in there. It's a good tussle at the top there. And perhaps Gabardino will push to be in the Pirates side tomorrow and come up with a couple of goals himself, because, when he does get on a streak, if he can go on a streak for the last few games, then he'll definitely win it. He'll probably go past 20 goals and win it.
Yeah.
So it's a great tussle up there. But I think that Kermit, as part of it, I think that if Cape Town City can continue their improvement, I think they've got a chance in this game. I think they'd have more of a chance if they were playing in Cape Town because of the old Cape Town effect. But they've definitely got a chance. They'll have some confidence from the previous game, and Sundowns are. Even Pizzo's admitted are a little bit off at the moment for whatever reason. Maybe they'll click, but I think we could see another. I know you like predicting draws, Kamza. We could see another draw here.
Yeah, no, I only predict them when I think they're gonna happen. And I got them right both times. I got both draws right. It was a score draw, so I put on that one. Gents, I'm not gonna put you through that this time around, though. I wish you a good week of catching up with the football. And just to everyone who tunes into the podcast, we are gonna try and do this as thoroughly once a week now, though, as everyone's back at work and, of course, chasing up all the latest results and stories. That's what we have for our journalists who join us to do. And so I want to take this opportunity to say, gents, go forth, enjoy the football. It's Sundowns against Cape Town City. That's essentially what we're bumping into, having recorded this show on Monday. So let's see how it pans out, and we'll reflect on it in a week's time. Thank you, Mazola. Thank you, Jonty. We'll catch up soon. And to you too, thanks for tuning in to the Frontrunner Football Podcast.
Cheers, guys.